right, guys, we have to talk about the helpful content update. It was released September 14th, right off the back of the August core update. No one gets a break in SEO these days, let me tell you. So as we were ending the August core update and taking a deep breath and realizing our sites were not hit by it or our sites were affected by it, they released the helpful content update. And I can tell you what I have been seeing with the sites that I monitor and what is exactly going on with the helpful content update. So first of all, I wanted to check to see if the SERPs were choppy. So I checked Algo, I checked a couple of others, and you can see things are in the green. It doesn't look choppy. It looked a little choppy on the 14th with the release, but let me tell you, the sites that I'm monitoring, this doesn't reflect what I'm seeing. And excuse my language for a second, but I think it's complete bullshit to say that the SERPs aren't choppy right now. Now, maybe all of the SERPs are not choppy. The sites that I'm monitoring are not smooth sailing. So let me tell you what I'm seeing, and maybe it will match what you are seeing as well. So what I am seeing with rankings is we're either way up or we're way down, and it changes daily right now. SERPs for the sites that are being affected by the helpful content, SERPs are choppy for those sites. You can see you're up 8 points, down 10 points. I'm seeing very little keywords drop out of the top 100. I'm only seeing very few drop out of the top 100. But more than anything, I'm seeing that we're up a couple of spots, down a couple of spots, and it changes every day. And it even changes hour by hour. And by a couple of spots, I mean 8, 10, 12, sometimes it's 46. It's up and down, and it's like a roller coaster right now for those sites. Now, the sites that are reacting to the rollout, do I think they've been hit by the helpful content update? I don't know yet, because I have to watch the website behavior before I can start drawing a lot of my conclusions. But if I am used to tracking all of the other updates, a lot of times we see sites being affected by the rollouts, but not necessarily fully hit by those updates. And I want to say that might hold true for the helpful content, and it might not, and I might change my statement here as I watch the behaviors of the sites that I'm monitoring. What we might see is that when the rollout is complete, or they have deemed it's completed, we might see sites start to go back into the green that were in the red. But I'm seeing sites in the red one day, in the green the next day, and then some in the red, and then it's kind of all mixed up. It's very choppy for the sites. Even if you take a look at who's winning the top spots, that can even change daily right now, depending on what niches you are tracking. The niches that I'm tracking, we're seeing a pretty big mix-up daily. So I can't gauge who is winning and who is losing until those rankings settle in and I can see who took the top spots. And they're taking the top spots every day, day after day, not just one day here and one day there. So it's very hard right now for me to pick out the patterns of what helpful content would look like. However, what we can look at is what Google has said about helpful content and what they're talking about. And what I did was highlight what I found interesting so that we can talk about it here. So first of all, something that was changed with Google's helpful content is that helpful content is not created by people, but they changed it to helpful content created for people. So we're talking about content that's produced for people, and it no longer says created by people, which tells us that AI is here. People are no longer writing all of the content. Right now we have AI, and helpful content is talking about how we're creating content for the end user and not talking as much about search engine optimization. You can have a site fully search engine optimization all the way up and down that site, and it may not be considered created for the end user. And so that's something we have to start getting used to checking into and acknowledging what that might look like moving forward, because now it's becoming a lot more important. Now, the end user was always important, so don't think that I think the end user is just important today. It's been important the entire time. But how we create content is no longer search engine optimization focused according to the helpful content system. Now, that can get confusing because you could throw up your hands in the air and say, well, where do I use SEO? When do I not? When do I pay attention to the end user? But we've got to find a good mixture of both and a happy medium between the two. And we're going to get there by studying this particular helpful content release. The last helpful content release was December 5th, and it lasted 38 days in 2022. That particular release, all of the sites that I were monitoring were not affected, so I couldn't see what is going on today. So by me following the sites now with this release, and seeing how choppy the SERPs can be for the sites that might be affected by the helpful content. And I say might because we're not sure yet until it's fully rolled out and they give me this 38 days or 40-day duration of whatever. Then we will know how and what they're looking for by making comparisons and looking at who did take the top spots. So again, I thought it was interesting that it's helpful content created for the people instead of by the people, because that is a big distinguishing difference between how we've been creating content. Now, something to distinguish between the helpful content system is that this is site-wide or for your domain as a whole, which means it's looking at your website as a whole, and it's not looking page by page and only affecting certain pages. It's really affecting as a whole. So if most of your site has what they call unhelpful content, and yes, I know that's not helpful, but we'll get more into it as I can monitor the sites. If what you have on most of your domain is deemed unhelpful by this system, you're going to be affected site-wide and not page by page. And I thought that was interesting. And it also notates that content that doesn't meet a visitor's expectations won't perform as well. Content that doesn't meet a visitor's expectation. Let's think about that for a second. The person landing on your site, the end user, is looking for something. What are they looking for? They're answering a question. They're finding out research, whatever it is. Are they finding that within a few seconds? Because remember, we don't have attention spans that long anymore. It has to be very, very fast within a few seconds. Or are they bouncing off and going somewhere else and continuing to do more research? Are they finding what they're looking for, and are they finding it quick enough? Is one way that we can look at that, but there's many other avenues to look at. That's not the only one. But does the content meet a visitor expectations? And if it's not meeting it, it's not going to perform as well. We are looking at software that can gauge what a visitor's experience will be. Now, what's promising about that statement, or good about that statement, is that we are dealing with a software, which means they are gauging a visitor's experience off of signals that we can control. Now, I know you just want me to tell you exactly what those signals are, but I have to finish studying this particular helpful content update release to give you a better answer. But what's refreshing is, and yes, it's signals that we can control. So what I was stating a minute ago is relatively high amounts of unhelpful content on your site is less likely to perform well in search. But what's also interesting is they have a statement in here about comparing it against other sites. And if your site has the best content, even though it's not that helpful, it will still show up in the SERPs. So it's going to be a little bit harder to distinguish between what's helpful content and exactly what is unhelpful content, but it could still be done. The helpful content signal is also weighted. Sites with lots of unhelpful content will notice a stronger effect. So sites that have a stronger effect, lots of keywords going down and staying down after the release, you more than likely have a lot of content on the majority of your site that Google is not in love with anymore because they are deeming it unhelpful. helpful at that time. Part of the good news is that we can find the signals, we can compare, we can overcome the helpful content update. Another good part of this is the classifier runs continuously, allowing it to monitor newly launched sites and existing ones. So as it determines that your site has gotten rid of or updated or changed all of the unhelpful content and it stayed gone for the long term, the classification will no longer apply, meaning we can recover from this. That is good news. Now, if you're being affected by this, right now the SERPs are choppy. One day a site is completely up 10 points, up 15 points, and you think it's going to be a good day. The next day, it's a really bad day and you're down 10 points, 15 points, 20 points. I've seen a site go down the first day at 10%, the second day 25%, and maybe it's going to keep marching forward. I don't know yet until I continue to monitor, but I have hope that this will be like other updates. And again, I might change my opinion on this as I monitor these sites, that all of the sites that are being affected right now might not truly be hit by the classifier. And once they announce that it's over, we've got that 2-week or so period where we'll see some sites go up and do really well and some sites that will continue to do really bad. But right now, I'm not seeing sites that are down and staying down. That doesn't mean it's not happening. You could have a site right now where you're down 5 points, 10 points, 15 points, and you don't get the days with the green arrows. But I'm telling you, it's choppy right now for the sites that I'm monitoring. So don't give up hope. And whatever the outcome, you can fix this. So that's my pep talk video about the helpful content update. I will have a lot more about the helpful content moving forward as I monitor it and as I watch the site's behavior. I've heard a lot of talk out there about what people are assuming could be happening, watching the SERP tools and all kinds of things. But I'm telling you, it's not what it appears on the outside. Pretty choppy on the inside. And I'm not convinced the sites that are down will stay down. All right, see you guys in the next video and hang in there.